So continuing on with all these reviews that I'm doing in 2021, we're going to be talking about none other than the Xiaomi Mi 10 and seeing how it holds up in 2021. Now, the Xiaomi Mi 11 just came out, funny enough, and I haven't been able to get my hands on it yet because it's not really sold publicly in my country. But regardless, hopefully by the end of the year I'll get one. But the Mi 10 was a phone that came out a year ago, and surprisingly, these things have gone down in value quite a bit. I'm actually pretty surprised, and they're pretty easy to pick up on Amazon as well. Now they're still pretty expensive in a lot of other places, so I'll find the cheapest ones that I can find on Amazon, link them down in the description below. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now on the front of the Xiaomi Mi 10, we have a really surprisingly good 6.67 inch Super AMOLED display, and it's a full HD panel, not 1440p, but I think for the most part, for the price tag that this phone was, I actually think it was a pretty decent price tag for sure. Now the best thing about this specific panel is, first of all, there's not a lot of bezel around it. It's a hole punch display, and it really does give me the facade of something like a OnePlus 8 kind of design, but it seems like there's less bezel on this thing overall. Now it is a curved panel as well, which I love. I love having curved panels. That's one of my favorite type of panels for sure. Now I do kind of like a flat display, but there's pros and cons for both at the end of the day. Now when you look at the bottom of this device, you do have the USB Type-C port, which is great. And on the back, you do have kind of like a frosted back, a little bit. It actually feels really good in the hand. And what's really good about this type of device, which, a lot of devices are kind of bringing nowadays, is that we do have wireless charging, which is great. But we also have reverse wireless charging, which I've said before is one of the most important things I think that are up and coming. No iPhones have it. The OnePlus 8 Pro has it. But I really hope more devices start bringing this type of feature. And I think it's really important. It's one of the most important things a manufacturer can start to bring, just like how I think 8K capability for the videos are also something that's very important. With this specific device, you're getting a really premium type of feeling device, but you're pretty much also getting some cool capability on the back as well with that reverse wireless charging. So in terms of the outside, this phone feels extremely good in the hand. There's no micro SD card slot, no IP certification as far as I can tell, but that doesn't mean this phone is a bad phone or a horrible phone. I think in terms of where it matters, it probably counts, but I really do wish this thing did have a micro SD card slot of some sort, but it's totally okay. Now on the back of the Xiaomi Mi 10, we do have the camera, which we'll go ahead and hit on right now. So it has a quadruple camera setup on the back, which is a very interesting thing to do. They have a 108 megapixel wide angle lens. They have a 13 megapixel ultra wide sensor, then a 2 megapixel macro lens, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. Now what I can tell you about this type of capability on this device is surprisingly, just like how I stated before, this phone first of all has 8K capability, which as I stated is something that's very important. I think that's super cool. It's kind of impractical because not a lot of people are going to use it, but it is going to be pretty much the norm coming very soon. Not tomorrow, not, eventually, but pretty much for quite a bit of time, it's going to be pretty much the standard, which is something that's really preferred in my opinion. So when it comes down to this camera, I think the quality is pretty good. I think the addition of the macro and depth lenses are something that's not extremely important. I don't think it's necessarily something that, people need for their day in and day out use. I think the ultra wide sensor is a clever thing to put here, but as stated before, I like having the triple threat of cameras. I like having the ultra wide, the wide, and the telephoto lenses. Those things are extremely important in my opinion. And with this device, you're not really getting that type of capability from this phone. You're getting, a really good ultra wide sensor and a wide angle lens. But in terms of the everything else, it's pretty standard. But I think the features that are in this phone's camera, I think the quality of the photos and videos are extremely good as well. But I think the one area where Xiaomi could really work on is that front camera. The 20 megapixel front facing camera is only full HD video. I think, nowadays, even in 2020, even in 2019, with the iPhone 11s, we were able to shoot 4K at 60 on the front of those cameras. With the Xiaomi Mi 10, we didn't really have that capability, which is very sad. So I think Xiaomi probably will eventually fix it on their, most, up-to-date models. But this specific device did not have 4K at 60. And I think that's probably where the area of this phone could really put some work in. But other than that, I think the camera quality of this device is very good. And that kind of seems like the, ongoing trend, which, Android phones in general. It's like the back cameras are really good, but the front cameras aren't really that great. But Samsung has taken a toll and, been making really good front-facing cameras recently. So I just hope Xiaomi does the same as well. So in terms of the camera setup on this device, that really pretty much covers it up. Now the battery life, I'll go ahead and hit on the battery life and the software at the same time. So this phone, obviously, when it first came out, it was actually running Android 10. It has gotten the upgrade for Android 11, which is great, but it is running its MIUI or MIUI, whatever you call it. And I've said this before, I've been very critical of it, just like how I've been critical with One UI. I'm just not really a huge fan of these specific things. I'm not a huge fan of, One UI and, MIUI and all these things. I like stock Android. I like Oxygen OS. And I really hope in the future those type of things will end up becoming the norm. But with, Android 11 so far on the Xiaomi Mi 10, I think it's been a pretty good run. I didn't really own this device on Android 10. I bought it and it already had Android 11 pre-installed on it. So I'm not really too sure what the, experience was before. But on Android 11, I think it's been a pretty good experience so far. It hasn't been insanely crazy. It hasn't been really, really bad. It's been pretty predictable. I think it's been a really good run so far. Again, is it perfect? Absolutely not. I think there's a lot of issues that come with these type of, skinned versions of Android. You're going to get a lot of, background processes and different things like that when you have this type of device. Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. I think it's totally okay. It's totally expected. But I really do wish these type of manufacturers would kind of focus more in on trying to, create a better stockish version of software rather than skinning the whole entire thing down. But I think it is what it is. There's nothing we can really do about it. But I actually will say the 4,780 milliamp hour battery inside of it, whether it's on Android 10 or Android 11, has been a really good experience so far. I think the reverse wireless charging aspect is great. I think the wireless charging is great, obviously, but I think that battery size is great. And no matter what version of software it's on, and even though it's pretty skinned and has a lot of different processes running in the background, it's still such a massive size battery that it's not really going to, do a crazy number in terms of, decreasing or increasing the battery health or battery life or anything like that. You're going to be getting an extremely good sized battery, an extremely good, life cycle of this type of battery in terms of the software and the mixture with its battery size as well. So in terms of software and battery, that pretty much covers it up. Now, hitting and ending off with the performance, this device does have a kind of an interesting chipset. Obviously it's the one that came out last year, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset, octa-core CPU, and 8 gigs of RAM on the base models, and then 12 gigs of RAM on those top tier models. And as I always state, whenever you have that type of RAM and this type of chipset, it really does give a good experience. And overall, last year, my experience with the Snapdragon 865 was overall positive. I didn't really have too many complaints about it. I think last year we saw most manufacturers kind of, trying to change up, their hardware and not necessarily trying to, do crazy things with the RAM, because what we saw last year was pretty much the same thing what we saw in 2019 in terms of RAM and stuff. But I think overall it's not a bad thing. And what I can definitely tell you is the Xiaomi Mi 10 has a really good performance chipset inside of it. I think it's overall smooth. I think the 90 hertz really does add overall to the, smoothness factor. And I think for a majority of people out there, whatever you're going to do with this phone is going to be overall positive. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not, but I think most people out there are going to be getting a really good experience in terms of the performance from this phone. Now, as I always say, day-to-day tasks, messaging people, doing group video calls on this device, Snapchatting, TikToks, those type of things are going to be perfectly fine on this device. But the best thing is, even if you step that up to the higher intensive gaming, the higher intensive workload, video editing, photo editing, extremely on your, Xiaomi Mi 10, even in 2021 is going to be great. And I'll be honest, with the Snapdragon 888 chipset that we have now, from what I'm seeing, it's only gotten better, but that doesn't mean the Snapdragon 865 that's in the Mi 10 is a bad performance chip at all. This is still a really good performing phone for the most part. So in my head, whatever you're going to do with it is probably going to be perfectly fine, as long as you're not comparing it to the Galaxy S21 Ultra, as long as you're not comparing it to the Samsung Galaxy S20 even. I feel like that phone probably was a little bit better in performance. As long as you're not comparing it to even the Mi 11, you're going to have a really good time with it. Now, if you need the most best performance on any phone right now, then the Mi 11, those type of devices are the best ones to go down right now. But as stated, you're probably going to be better off if you get, a Mi 11 or, Galaxy S21 Ultra, something like that. But the Mi 10 is a really good performing phone still, and I'll definitely tell you it's one of its biggest assets for sure. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up. And to kind of sum up the video and to answer the question, is this Xiaomi Mi 10 still worth it in 2021? Well, this is what I'll tell you. For sure, at the end of the day, the Mi 10 is completely worth it in 2021. It's only kind of become a better deal because the Mi 11 came out and it kind of decreased the prices of the Mi 10. And because the Mi 10 has been out for, a year now, a little bit over a year, I think, it's going to it's going to lead to more people being able to access it, which is great. So when you have a device like this, as I stated, you're going to be able to access it pretty easily worldwide. I wish it was available just, easier when it first came out, just like how the Mi 11 is still kind of hard to get. You have to wait a long time and stuff, but the screen of the Mi 10 is great. The battery life and size is amazing on this device. I mean, this is a really good battery life and battery size on this type of device. You're not going to feel like it's a, bad performing battery life or anything like that. The 90 Hz refresh rate is a really nice touch. Reverse wireless charging is amazing. The performance is still really, really good. You have USB Type-C. You have a lot of, good things about this phone. I think the only problem in my head about this specific device is the software. I'm not a huge fan of MIUI, as I stated. I don't think I ever will be, just like how I'm not a huge fan of One UI. So that's really the only thing I complain about. But I think for a majority of people out there, it's totally okay and it's totally justifiable if you're going to get this phone, or if you're going to go ahead and get something like a Xiaomi Mi 11 or a OnePlus 8 Pro or something. That's probably what I would kind of rank the Mi 10. And, it's more so that than like a Xiaomi Mi 9 or like a Galaxy S10. And this Mi 10 sits more in line with me as the newer phones than the older ones. So this is still a really good phone in my opinion, and I would highly recommend it. So that really pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button. That'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.